You have tuned into the Department's virtual planning 101 meeting. My name is Ana Villarreal. I am a senior planner for the City of San Antonio's Planning Department, and I'm really looking forward to discussing the SA Tomorrow Comprehensive Plan and the Westside Community Area Plan with everyone here tonight. But before I pass it on to Chris, I would like to thank those joining us for the first time and taking time to learn more about our planning efforts on the Westside, as well as those that have participated in the development of this community plan from the time it started in 2017. I see a couple of faces, familiar faces, so thank you for being here. During this process, we have organized numerous planning team meetings and community meetings to craft a guide for how the area can develop and build on its existing assets to fulfill the community's vision. Give me 1 second, because the PowerPoint is not moving forward. So while the COVID-19 pandemic delayed our work on this plan more than any of us could have anticipated, we are very, very happy to be here tonight to continue this critical step in the creation of a prosperous and resilient Westside. So once again, thank you for being here tonight, and I'm going to pass it on to Chris now.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's great to see so many familiar faces. And as I look at the participant list, it looks like just maybe a couple new people that are either joining from somebody else's phone or whose name I don't recognize, but I'll look forward to getting to know you tonight and over the coming weeks and months. But there's one more in the waiting room. There we go. For those, I think everybody on the call knows me, but for those who don't, I'm also with the planning department. I help to oversee all of the city's sub-area plans that we're doing across the city. And then I'm working with Anna as kind of a co-project lead on this Westside community area plan. With that, I think we're going to be doing more involved introductions next, kind of the first official planning team meetings, you know, with a couple more kind of questions and prompts. But I think maybe just real quickly tonight, if you can just introduce your name and what organization you're with, that would be great, just so everybody knows kind of who's on the call. And I'll just kind of call everybody's name based on the order that I see on my screen. And so at the very top is Amelia Valdez. Welcome, Amelia. Hopefully she's... Are you there, Amelia? It looks like you're unmuted, but I don't hear you. Okay, we may circle back to Amelia. She's with Historic Westside Residents Association. Next on the list, I see Christina Bailly. Everybody's here, but not here.
Okay, it took me a second.
Excellent, welcome.
Hi, hello everybody. I'm Christina Bailly, and I'm Executive Director of the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center, and I've been participating in this planning for a few years, and glad to see it up and going again.
Excellent. I think there's a late comer who's now at the top of my list, but Eugenio, would you like to quickly introduce yourself and which organization you're with?
Hello, my name is Eugenio Rodriguez. I'm with the Loma Vista Neighborhood Association and some other groups, and I was trying to figure out how to get on this darn thing. So finally got.
We're glad to have you. Thanks, Eugenio.
So thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Next on the list, Francesca.
Hi, I'm Francesca Rattray, CEO of YWCA. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Gabriel Velasquez.
Hello, I'm Gabriel Velasquez, the President and CEO of the Avenida Guadalupe Association, the Avenida Guadalupe Zarzamora Senior Homes, and the Avenida Guadalupe Development Incorporated. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, things skipped around here. Graciela.
Hi, Graciela Sanchez with the Esperanza Peace and Justice Center and also the Westside Preservation Alliance and Historic Westside Residents Association. Glad we're back. Too much has gone not in good ways around the neighborhood, so want to make sure we're moving.
Yep, we're glad to get back to work too, and glad to have you all helping us. I see Lauro's iPhone. I assume that's Mr. DeLeon. I can't see everybody's picture on my screen. Lauro, if you're there, I think you might still be on mute. I think we can unmute you.
No, probably no.
We may circle back to Mr. DeLeon. This is one person whose name I don't recognize, at least on here. It's Mira Keshav. I'm not sure how you say the last name. But Mira?
Yeah, good evening. Mira,
Hello.
I'm with San Antonio River Authority.
Ah, wonderful.
Capacity, I've been working with the Westside Creeks Restoration Oversight Committee, which we have a couple of members here tonight as well. So I'm excited to join.
Excellent, thank you. Melinda Gonzalez.
Hi, good evening. This is Melinda Gonzalez with Prosper West San Antonio.
Great, and Jeremy.
Hello, sorry, I have class this evening, so I won't be on the whole time. But Jeremy Landin, I'm not sure in what capacity I'm listed on here, but I live in Prospect Hill Neighborhood Association boundaries. Great, glad to be here.
Thank you. Let's see, Melinda. Ramiro Gonzalez.
Hey, good evening. This is Ramiro Gonzalez. I am with Prosper West San Antonio. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the only one, everybody keeps shifting around, but I think the last one would be Sandra Morales. If Sandra is here.
Good evening. Hi, Sandra Morales. I'm the Executive Director at House of Neighborly Service. Looking forward to working with this group.
Excellent. All right. I think we tried to hit everybody. So yeah, it's great to see so many familiar faces. You know, a lot of you on this call will have heard the information we're providing tonight. Some of you many times before, but for those you know that are new, we hope that it's beneficial, and we hope it's a good refresher for those of you you know who have been part of the process before. And you know, really, we wanted to host this kind of you know, initial meeting tonight because we're really hoping to dive more into conversation with you all and among the full planning team next week when we meet on the 21st. But we, you know, so we didn't want to take an hour or more to kind of review of the plan next week, which is why we wanted to get everybody together tonight. So with that, thank you again for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to Anna, who's going to cover the initial portion of the presentation.
Yeah, so this is the meeting agenda. The purpose of this meeting is to provide background and context information on the city's comprehensive plan, the SA Tomorrow planning program, and also a brief overview of the progress made on the Westside Community Area Plan. We will then give you an overview of the planning team roles and responsibilities, discuss potential updates to our planning process, and share important resources to the development of this plan as we move forward.
No?
Just quickly, if you guys can make sure that you mute yourself so that you can hear me well, I would really, really appreciate that. Okay, so to give you important context to the adoption of the SA Tomorrow Comprehensive Plan, Bexar County is expected to add up to 1.1 million new residents. So to put it into perspective, that's about 500,000 new jobs and 500,000 housing units that are needed by 2040. So that's huge. If not properly prepared for this growth, the impacts could have significant consequences in our communities. One way in which all of us might be affected are traffic congestion and commute times increasing, which would in turn affect our air quality and overall quality of life. So what is a comprehensive plan? The SA Tomorrow Comprehensive Plan addresses this one challenge by preparing our communities for the anticipated population and employment growth, and to help us understand what that growth could look like and how it will affect your daily lives. This is a document that provides a strategic direction for the city's policy, vision, and future growth. Previous efforts to have guided the direction of our city include the 1987 Master Plan policies and SA 2020, which provided the vision foundation for our current comprehensive plan, the SA Tomorrow. So SA Tomorrow SubArea planning builds on and adds to much of the work that has been happening, which include adopted neighborhood and community plans. The Westside currently has 4 adopted plans within its boundaries. Those are the Guadalupe Westside Community Plan, the Nogalitos Southside Zamora Community Plan, also the Lone Star Community Plan, and the West Southwest Sector Plan. The SA 2020, which organized a series of public forums in 2010 to develop goals for improving San Antonio by the year of 2020, and provide a significant foundation for the SA Tomorrow comprehensive plan. Also, there's 2 plans working simultaneously under SA Tomorrow. That is the multimodal transportation plan, guiding future city investments in transportation infrastructure, and the sustainability plan, leading our growth in environmentally smart ways. We also have improvement projects that were submitted for the 2012 and 2017 bonds, and some additional ones that were submitted for the 2022 bond program under the Westside Strategic Area Study. So these were improvement projects on 3 different areas within the Westside. That was Las Palmas area, the Madonna Center, Gardendale Elementary area, and the third one was the Good Samaritan Casiano Homes area. So why is a comprehensive plan important? The comprehensive plan outlines our growth, environmental, transportation, and fiscal growth goals for the city out to the year 2040. This plan is extremely important because the direction in which our city grows and develops can have very long-lasting impacts in our communities. The comprehensive plan helps describe the desired land use, identifies the community's identity, it highlights key challenges, outlines housing options wanted and needed in your area. It helps expand on the transportation options and choices. It helps identify the infrastructure conditions. It recognizes those public services needed, outlines economic development strategies, and also lines up the zoning to support that community's vision. So following the adoption of the SA Tomorrow Comprehensive Plan in August 2016, the planning department began working with communities across the city to create 30 SubArea plans that collectively will cover the entire city. The goal of the SubArea plan is to provide a more coordinated and effective structure for planning across the city, recognizing and achieving both citywide goals as well as those more specific to each community. Relevant concepts and recommendations from existing neighborhood and community plans are integrated and carried forward into the planning for each SubArea. So here on the screen, you'll see 30 SubAreas that have been divided over 5 phases. There are 13 areas shown as different shades of blue on the map that indicate our regional centers. And these are major economic activity and employment centers within your city. The darkest blue shows regional centers in phase 1, which were started in June of 2017, as well as the lighter shades of blue, which show phase 2 and phase 3 currently underway. This map also shows community plan areas. And you see them shown in orange. And these cover basically the rest of the city outside of the regional centers. Each community area includes several neighborhoods, usually between 5 to 10, that are in close proximity and may share similar challenges and opportunities. Once adopted by City Council, the Westside Community Area Plan will provide recommendations and strategies to guide policy changes, future investments, collaborations, and partnerships in the area. So here are the 5 regional center plans that were part of phase 1. You see the UTSA area, the medical center area, the Midtown, then we have the downtown and the Brooks area. All have been adopted and they were developed alongside the Westside Community Area Plan as the very first community plan to be initiated in phase 1. So these sub-area plans get drafted with the help of a project manager and a planning team who represent the area. The planning team includes business owners, resident associations, nonprofits, public and private agencies, and they all meet approximately between 12 to 14 times over the course of each plan to discuss different topics like vision and goals, land use, economic development, and housing. So ultimately, the sub-area plan defines the community aspirations for the future and puts its community values into this plan. So who uses the sub-area plans? The central goal of this sub-area planning process is to create a future land use map, which will become the effective immediately after its adoption and will inform zoning decisions. Unless an area has an adopted plan, there is no mechanism to ensure that zoning requests align with the community's vision for the area. Developing a sub-area plan with a future land use will help with that process and ensure the Westside develops in ways that are desirable, consistent, and equitable. So the future land use map, to answer that question, is widely used by City Council, city staff, by Planning and Zoning Commission, and private developers, as well as property owners, to inform public and private decision-making and investments. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris. That's going to talk about the Westside Community Area Plan in detail now.
Yes, thank you. I got distracted because I was trying to respond to comments. So hopefully I got to everybody. So for those not familiar with the Westside Community Area Plan, we just have the study area map up here on the screen. As you can see, it basically runs from the downtown area on the east, as far west as Callahan Road. On the north, the most part of the boundary is Culebra Road, and then on the south, Highway US 90. So in total, it's about 17 square miles. Like a lot of our sub-area plans, it's quite a large area. And so we'll also be exploring ways to kind of, break down the area in terms of more specific recommendations where that makes sense. And I think you can up to the next slide. Yep. So for those, again, not that weren't along with us the whole way, we did kick off this plan in June of 2017. Over the 2 years that we were working on it, we conducted about 15 different planning team meetings and 3 different community meetings, one of which was kind of a multi-day kind of open house workshop that we got a lot of great feedback on. We'll probably be replicating that again. In terms of main takeaways, in terms of kind of what was accomplished and what we hope to build from, we do already have kind of a draft semi-final vision and goals, but it's something that we're going to want to review with all of you next week and in the couple coming weeks to come. The draft version that we have incorporates comments and suggestions from a number of you who are on this call already. But given that 2 years have passed and a lot of conditions have changed, we all may look at our communities in new ways. We definitely wanted to revisit that because that'll kind of set the basis for the rest of the plan. There is a very early draft land use map. We've looked at that map several times as a planning team and had a lot of offline conversations, but we still have a lot of work to do on that. And that is, in a way, sort of the foundation of the plan in terms of what legally gets adopted as part of the comprehensive plan, and also what is really important moving forward for a lot of the neighborhoods and communities in the West Side in terms of having an impact on zoning cases and other impacts like that. We did cover a number of other topics, and with those, I wouldn't say that we have any set recommendations to go from, but we have had a lot of conversations and feedback that we'll be able to fall back on related to the different challenges and opportunities that people see for the West Side related to transportation, housing, community amenities, economic developments, all the different topics of the plan. So our hope is to build off of what we always heard in the past, but certainly taking all the new feedback from the full planning team and all of the different type of community outreach that we hope to do over the next few months. We also had to identify different focus areas and corridors that we'll be looking at as well. In terms of the phases, just in kind of a broad sense, we usually consider about 4 phases for these plans. That initial phase is analysis and visioning, which we've done a lot of, as I said, but we'll be revisiting that. And then the development of the plan framework is really looking at all of the different topics of the plan and trying to make sure that we have good recommendations and strategies and implementation ideas for each of those topics. So again, we have some basis for that to fall back on. That can be kind of a foundation, but we're going to want to revisit those topics and make sure that we're adding in any new ideas, new information, and make sure that those are relevant and up to date to the current time. And then as we get past that, oh, I think Anna went one ahead. If you can just go back to the phases one real quick. Yeah, there we go. We'll dive into, like I said, the final recommendations and implementation kind of elements of it. And then there is a multi-month process where we take it through the adoption process. So because these plans are officially components of the comprehensive plan, which is a formally adopted document, these are documents that we do take through Planning Commission, typically the Planning and Community Development Subcommittee of City Council, and then to the full City Council for adoption. And all of those have opportunities for public comment, et cetera. And we'll have a lot of community engagement and outreach prior to that for sure. So again, these are all things that we're going to revisit. We looked a lot at existing conditions. We try to provide the planning team and ourselves with a lot of data just so that we have some of the important numbers in mind that relate to the West Side. Because a lot of these numbers were pulled now 5 years ago, we're in the process of kind of re-pulling those numbers with the most up-to-date data that we can get. Some of the 2020 census data is out, some of it isn't, but we're going to get all the most current data that we can to kind of repopulate our existing conditions. And we're going to pull that all together and have more of a complete existing conditions atlas that we can provide for all of you soon.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. And you can skip to the next slide, Anna. And so as we described, a lot of work early in the process, both with the planning team and at community meetings, was devoted to thinking about the different assets and challenges and opportunities for the West Side and how those translate into an overall vision and the most important goals. So again, we have some things to fall back on and to use as a foundation, but I would certainly encourage you over the next week until we all get together again next week to be thinking about those things that you think are most important. If it's still the same things that were most important 4 to 5 years ago, that's great. If there's new things that have risen up in terms of importance, we're going to want to hear about those as well. But we'll try to create a concise vision and good, concise goals that basically everybody agrees on, at least for the most part, and really use those to drive the rest of our process in terms of thinking about recommendations and strategies. We're going to want to make sure that each of those actually looks back to the vision and goals, and that we're not just putting things in the plan that don't really fulfill those most important things that we identify at the beginning of the process. And so we've mentioned a lot of these already, but the most important aspects of the plan that we will go over in one fashion or another relate to land use, which of course then influences zoning. We'll look at transportation and mobility and how people are able to get around the West Side and from the West Side to other parts of the city where they want to go. different amenities and public spaces, which I think have probably become even more important since COVID. People have realized that having public places to gather and spend time can be important in a time like that. Housing and economic development strategies we'll be taking a look at, and we also have some other, adopted city documents that we can rely on that a lot of you have put work into as well with other departments. And then, as I mentioned, we will identify some other specific kind of focus areas or transformative projects where we can take an even deeper dive and do a little bit more detailed kind of planning and urban design for what we might want a particular place to look like. If it needs to be revitalized, or if we're really trying to protect something, we can take those focus areas and transformative projects in a lot of different directions. And I would say too, we call them projects, which isn't necessarily supposed to mean just physical development projects. I would encourage the group to also think about, a really important program, perhaps, that we really want to highlight, talk about some case studies, why it would be really beneficial to the West Side or a particular component of the West Side. It doesn't just have to be about figuring out a development project, which is where many of our other plans have gone, but that's definitely not the only meaning or the only intent of transformative projects. And so I don't want to say this is out of date, but as a group, we haven't looked at this in a long time, so I expect it to change. But we just wanted to put an example in here of, towards the end of the process, we will try to develop what we call here the plan framework map. Hopefully we can come up with a friendlier name for it. But really, this is just intended to highlight those things that we all feel at the end of the plan are the most important things that we really want to call out and that can be represented on a map. We'll also complement that with kind of a list of priority recommendations that probably reflect some of the things that you'll see on the map here, but also maybe things that aren't necessarily as easily represented on a physical map, but that we still think are among the most important things that we want to call out in the plan. So, as we develop these different sections related to mobility and focus areas and et cetera, we'll kind of layer all these in. So we have one map that the average reader, the average resident could look at, and hopefully understand what are some of the most important things that were identified in this plan. So this will be getting updated quite a bit as well. And then I think these are the last couple slides I'm going to talk about. Some of you are aware, Anna mentioned earlier, we did some smaller, so we weren't completely off the map during the last couple of years. We did work on a couple smaller, more detailed kind of urban design studies in the 3 areas that Anna mentioned. One of them here at Las Palmas Library and the YWCA and Las Palmas Park. Another one out at Rogers Place at the Madonna Center and Gardendale Elementary. And then another one around the Casiano Homes and Good Sam and St. Timothy area. And with each of those, we really looked at kind of what are existing additions. We had as many local community stakeholders involved as we could. And if Anna shows the next slide, in an urban design kind of sense, we tried to identify what ways the city could invest or other partners could invest in improving these small areas to either make them more accessible to folks from around the neighborhood, to make them more pleasant, to make them more connected. And so I can provide the links to everybody on these, and we'll probably review them in more detail in a future planning team meeting. But the consultant on that same plan is also our consultant on this plan, MIG. And so as we all identify some of these smaller focus areas or areas that we really want to say, hey, we really want to concentrate on how a certain street should look, or we really want to concentrate on, how the streets around a certain park should look, or a certain community kind of hub should look, we can create some hopefully compelling illustrations that bring to life the ideas that all of you and the community participants have for the area. And again, really kind of bring to life those ideas of what people think their area could look like and how it should be improved. So we'll be able to introduce a lot of things like this into the plan as well. And so I think, yep, I'll turn it back over to Anna for the next number of slides. We have just a few slides left, and then we'll just open it up to any general questions that you all have.
Yeah, and for those of you that have that are joining this planning team for the first time, again, thank you for being here. We know that all of you deeply care about the West Side, and we really recognize that you have a lifetime of valuable experience and knowledge on the existing conditions and the needs that this community has. So it is our hope that, after this presentation, after we answer questions and we walk you through the different ways of engagement, that you do decide to join the Westside planning team, and that you help us make this area the best place that it could be in terms of living, work, and play areas. In terms of the roles and responsibilities, beyond active and respectful participation during our meetings, we do hope that you can be a community advocate for this community plan. If you can distribute information about the process and engagement through your social media and whoever you have access to, that's going to really bring more voices and more diverse voices into the process. Also, if you can bring back ideas, comments, any concerns that you hear from your community and from your networks, that's going to help us address them in our conversations. So that will be very, very helpful if you can help us engage your neighbors, everyone that you know, bring them together to develop this plan with us. And we've already shared, what we have been working on, and the kinds of things that we need from you. But at this point, we also want to hear from you. What is it that you need from us to, have a better sense of what to implement in the plan? And if you can tell us, what kind of engagement you need or information, so that we can all have a plan that is informed and truly, truly reflective of your community. That's going to be very helpful. So far, these are some of the things that we have been brainstorming, that in addition to having the planning team meetings, we are open to provide additional opportunities for engagement as requested. Some of the ideas that we've had are shown here. Those include organizing conversations in different focus areas within the plan to capture diverse perspectives. Also creating focus groups that bring together experts on different topics. We were also thinking of scheduling walk and talk sessions to allow communities to reach us very easily. Just join and give us feedback or ask questions. And also, if you have any additional opportunities or ideas on how we can reach out to you and make ourselves available, please voice it. This is the time to give us your feedback. Do any of these that I've mentioned work, or do you have better suggestions as far as how to give you information, how to give you answers, and how to get information from you? And you can either unmute yourself or raise your hand and we can unmute you for this.
This is Lauro DeLeon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you well.
Okay. One of the biggest problems that we have in the West Side is that you have three West Sides. The immediate West Side, and then the one that runs from General McMullen to Acme Road, and then the other one that runs for West. Now, the immediate West Side ends along San Joaquin Street. And then that's District 5. And then on District 6 starts there, and it goes all the way out to the end of the city limits. Okay, and what it is a lot of the recommendations that we made last time, none of them were appropriated for this part of town. As you know, we have a lot of needs, more needs than anyone else, because the sidewalks, if you want to have a walk and talk, be very careful, because you might not make it without falling. So those are the areas that need attention. Now, right now, according to the bond, District 5 favors their district, and District 6 favors the districts where they can get the most vote out of. And this creates a big problem. Now, one of the problems that we're having right now from the bond money is that they're building sidewalks and they putting telephone poles in the middle of the sidewalk, and that is a thing that is prohibited by the American Disability Act. And then, for example, some of the sidewalks that are being built are about 5 or 10 degrees lopsided, and they're brand new. So people on a wheelchair or a walker are not able to maneuver. You take Highway 90, it's the same thing. On the right side, they went ahead and they put a telephone right in the middle of it. Now, I was seeing where the new part of town can look like, where there's a sidewalk and then it's got an exit where you can go around. Well, we're not getting that. And that's one of the biggest issues that we have here in the Middle West Side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeLeon. And yes, we certainly know. So just to be clear, this particular plan that we're working on does only go out to kind of that Acme Road, Callahan Road area. It doesn't go further, way further west into District 6, like you were mentioning. But even within that area from downtown out to Callahan, I think there are certainly a couple of sort of unique areas that developed at different times that have different challenges. And we certainly intend to work with the planning team and to work with the community to not only have recommendations that may apply generally to the whole West Side area, but to try to have some specific targeted recommendations that are most appropriate to your area or to the immediate West Side, or perhaps to the area closer to the middle of the West Side, like Our Lady of the Lake area. So we certainly acknowledge that, and we'll try to work on making sure that we have recommendations that are tailored to the different parts of the West Side. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else with a question or comment about great ways that we can reach out to the community?
I think I see Eugenio.
Okay, I can't see everybody. Great.
So my name's Eugenio Rodriguez. What's happened recently, and let me backtrack a little bit. We used to travel a lot to Mexico City and stuff, and we saw when they started putting in subways and all that. Their transportation system, they have vans, they call them peceras, they have buses, they have the subway, they have a bunch of stuff. But in any case, every time they built something, the density got worse. Okay, so everything they built wasn't enough, and it wasn't enough, and it's not enough, and it's not enough. So that's a concern I have. But now recently, because of doctor's appointments and stuff, I have been going like to Stone Oak. I've been going all the way to Brook City Base. And what I've noticed that cars that begin here in our West Side follow all the way to those areas. And those major thoroughfares, our expressway system and interstates and all that, they're congested, period. Something has to be done. Something's not working. Something is gonna hit the fan. And if you look at the traffic, it's starting to look like Mexico City, with the only difference that the lanes are wider. That's it. So we're getting to that point where all those systems have more capacity than they can handle. We're going to get to that point. Even going to the airport, I've seen 5 or 6 cars that follow me down General McMullen, hitting to get on the ramp to the new Highway 90, and they follow me all the way to the airport and all the way to Stone Oak. So we are starting to have a traffic situation. Culebra Road, what is it? Commerce and all that, they're starting to stack. General McMullen, they're starting to stack more and more and more and more. So those major thoroughfares really need to be addressed, or maybe the major highways, we need to get in touch with federal and state, what it takes down and all that, to figure out what can be done, or maybe allow for the roads that we already have. Because what's happening now, people get off the highway to get away from the traffic, and then they end up in the interior arteries, or what is it? What do you call them? Arterials or whatever. So they start getting off the highway and going through our area to avoid the traffic, and then for nothing, because then they hit, like, let's say old Highway 90, and now we're also having stacking. Now at this moment they're fixing it, so hopefully after they finish with that, it'll get better. The other thing that I noticed is that map that you have is of the Westside Development Corporation map, but I think we need to go further. What we need is the Economic Development Department, because some years back when people from Mexico were trying to do business here and I took them there, you all have an amazing system going on there. Incredible in that they know what's going on throughout the city. And I think that's what we need. We need to, because if we isolate ourselves, a lot of roads go through us, and they're using us as how to get out of town quicker, So Hillcrest still is okay so far, a little bit. So that I sneak out that way through Hillcrest, going north. So before it gets worse, because it is getting there. I don't want to turn into like Stone Oak and all those areas. It's bad over there, and it's beautiful, but it's horrible.
Yeah.
The Brook City base area, New Braunfels, and military. When people are going to work or coming from work, it's a mess. I mean, it's really bad. So is there anything that could be done in which we can see the whole picture so that we can avoid these? I don't blame them. They take different roads off the highways to take shortcuts and get out of that stuff. So
yeah. So what I would say is
what development, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and what I would say is, certainly I think all your points are important, and I think everybody recognizes congestion is building around the city. That is going to be beyond the scope of what we're able to look at with this one Westside plan. Some of that, as you said, is statewide policy, that has to do with TxDOT, or the citywide transportation plan. So some of that is going to be kind of at a level elevated above what we might be able to look at. But what I can say is we certainly can look at those important corridors on the west side, like General McMullen, like Brazos, like Zarzamora, and just try to address, how those roads are functioning. Are they serving the most people in the best way? That's definitely the kind of thing that.
Because they already tried the light synchronization some years back. They tried that. It worked. It worked for a while. But
yeah, and that's going to be more up to traffic engineers. That's detailed current kind of stuff, but we can certainly look at more long range things that may improve the function of those roads for sure.
And also the reason is too that emergency access, you see, because the left turn middle lane was great when there was like an accident, and EMS or fire could go through that middle lane, which was a left turn. But now they're removing them and putting in medians in certain places.
Yep.
So that defeated the purpose of that. So there's a lot of little things that need to be addressed.
For sure. And we're not going to get to all of those,
the overall picture.
All of those tonight, because we want to make sure to hear from everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
We can definitely dive into those issues in future meetings for sure. So anybody else with a...
Ms. Amelia Valdez raised her hand
as well. Amelia, great.
Hi, my name is Amelia. I'll be real quick. I'm also part of the Historic Westside Resident Association. My concern is the community meetings, is to be able to work with the associations where we get communities involvement there also. And I know you were doing some of that, Chris, but more community involvement. More community meetings, to be able to catch a lot of the community members in our neighborhoods.
For sure, yeah, we're gonna, Anna and I are actually trying to be very, very creative, and we're actually hoping to tap into all of you and ideas that you have. But You know, in terms of the planning team, I honestly hope this is one of the last times we have a planning team meeting kind of like this, where we do a lot of the talking at the beginning. We're trying to find much more kind of creative ways, interactive ways, collaborative ways of hosting not only our planning team meetings, but also those wider community meetings. We do have some budget to be able to send out notices for a couple of those meetings, which we found in the past was the most effective way to let people know about those kind of bigger meetings, you know, as opposed to social media, email, websites, et cetera. But I think, and one of the things we really wanted to tap into all of you and your expertise is maybe really more fine-grained ways that Anna and I can, like Anna said, maybe it's meeting up with the neighborhood association or 5 people from the neighborhood association and doing a walk around your neighborhood, just so that we can walk with you and understand, you know, some of the places that you want to take us and tell us what's important or what's working or what's not working. You know, we're trying to come up with as many different ways as we can, aside from just the old kind of, we're having a planning team meeting and we're having a community meeting, and that was kind of our palette. Anna and I want to be as creative and as flexible and spend as much time with you all in your neighborhoods and in your communities and at your favorite places as we can. And so, Amelia, beyond just those broad community meetings, any ideas that you or your community have for, you know, a driving tour that we should do, a walking tour that we should do, some kind of pop-up event that we should attend, anything like that, please let us know, and we will do our very, very best to work it into our schedule. You know, collect that information and ultimately funnel it back to all of you on the planning team. But we really, really, more than any other plan we've done across the city, we're trying to do that moving forward in this plan. And we're going to rely on all of you for sure to supplement the ideas that we have. So yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Looks like Gabriel maybe has, Gabriel Velasquez had his hand up.
Chris, you know, on the list of participants on this Zoom, there's one whose name is Mira. Mira's from the San Antonio River Authority.
Yep.
And she is one of the liaisons for the Westside Creeks Restoration Oversight Committee. Now, the Westside Creeks Committee has been around for close to 15 years. And now I participated on that committee, I guess for a good 13 years or right around there, somewhere around there. And there hasn't been a community process that I have seen that has yielded the widest range of participation from the inner West Side, that's within the context of, I would say, John McMullen, inward toward downtown, and then outward the width of the West Side Creeks, which is really pretty significant. I would say that it goes as far as Laredo Street, but of course it affects as far as Highway 90, and then it goes beyond Culebra. So it's a very, very nice width that in the process of the Westside Creeks Oversight Project, those creeks go through every single neighborhood. And participating in it and having participated in many master plan initiatives of the city over the course of decades, right? I haven't seen that level of participation or that skill of organizing for a master plan, right? Than this Westside Creeks Oversight Committee's plan. Now, the mechanism that they used in the very beginning of it was to centralize the meetings in the elementary schools. And that means partnering with the school, but at the same time understanding that the most neutral ground that exists in our communities is going to be the schools, right? And that's important because I think everybody would agree that the West Side is a very, very unique environment, and being that it is the basis of much of the historic capacity building activism, right? That also means that inherent in it is distrust of systems, distrust of partners. It's just the overall unintended consequence of the benefit of having a very involved and very intelligent community, right? So through the elementary schools, it really goes into the more neutral environments because it pulls us all out of those environments that we may manage, right? and takes us into the closest environments that centralize around even people that we don't, that for us and for many different organizations that are self-centered, that they may miss these populations of people, right? They also have these great mechanisms for getting information out, right? If you partner properly with the institution. And that could also mean, not just the elementary schools, but it could also mean the FOIA. Although when you get to the elementary schools, there's more of them, right? And they're more strategic in their locations. Now, I would really hope that there's a way to make sure that y'all understand the contentiousness that exists and the complete utter disagreement that exists when someone says we really hate the way things are going. Well, there's others that really like the way things are going, and they're both important, because on one end one might be the watchdog, and on the other end the other one might be the mover and shaker, right? That's getting things done. And then they may reverse at times, right? So and not to be too long-winded about it, but I do think that it is absolutely the most important aspect of what it is that you're going to do, or what it is that we're supposed to do with you, is that we know that it's not just about the loudest voices, but that it's about the actual people who, in many cases, they're working and they're really living their lives, and they're doing their thing, and they're not claiming to speak for anybody like we all do sometimes, but you'll get right with them. So the reason I mentioned Mira is because the San Antonio River Authority has a history and possibly has a roadmap for how they went about organizing all of us for the investment that is the Westside Creeks. And I'll give you this one last detail why it's so important. The Westside Creeks project, it just received the $75 million at the federal level, right? And it's not enough to say that they achieved that $75 million without saying that we've been incredibly successful in the development of that foundation that actually can go to the federal government. The federal government will say, "Well, fund it," right? Because we've had a lot of successes, and that's really important, because in order for that to happen, it meant that we had to really work as a community very hard. It meant that we got along 90% of the time, and that as a unified community, we were able to raise those challenges to people like yourself, Chris, because sometimes the city or the county can say, we want to do this, and the community can say, hold on, I don't think you understand. So it puts us, I think, a little bit more in a driver's seat using that model, and puts y'all in a very respectful, professional seat. And I can't think of a better mechanism than to have a discussion with Mira, and also Linda Jimenez did some work with us, and so did her daughter, who they're very professional, and they were able to help us do this thing. So I would point you in that direction if it's about trying to figure out how we get proactively in the right direction. Okay, Chris?
That's great. Yeah, thank you. And to your point, Linda Jimenez actually is going to be helping us facilitate, like next week, she'll be helping us facilitate the meeting for sure, because we do appreciate the contentiousness and just the differing opinions that exist among all of the passionate participants on the West Side. And like we said, different parts of the West Side have different needs, different histories. And so we're definitely working to try to account for all that. And I had not yet met Mira before this evening. So I will look forward to reaching out to her afterwards and picking her brain about the Westside Creeks process. And we have some other great contacts at the River Authority as well that we've enjoyed working with. So we'll certainly try to learn anything we can from them and incorporate that into the way that we move forward. So we appreciate that. Anyone else with thoughts on the best way to reach out to the community, or to just make this process work better from your perspective? Any other additional thoughts?
I'd like to make a comment there. I wonder if Mr. Ramirez is still on the conversation.
Mr. Ramirez?
From the Prosper West.
Oh, do you mean me, Lauro?
Yes.
Yes, sir, I am.
Yes, he's on.
Okay. What it is the Prosper West has been communicating with all the neighborhood associations. This is the first time we've done this. And we are getting very good results from the community. And because we don't have no way of communicating by radio or TV, or the only thing they report is people getting killed and stuff like that. But it's not part of our town. It's further west. Uh, as so, uh, that is a good way of communication with the neighborhood associations. All of them have 30, 40 members, and they can spread that information. Now, I want to correct one thing before we leave, and it's already being confused. Uh, I mentioned Highway 90. Well, actually, it's historical Highway 90. And it changed from Enrique Barrera to historical Highway 90. So that's what I'm talking about. That part of the area town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with any other thoughts before we kind of wrap up?
Chris, if no one, I know this is the second time you speak, but I do have a concern that's come up in relay. I'm glad that the gentleman spoke about the creeks, and that our area was channelized. There used to be creeks that were about 2 feet deep, and now they're channels, huge channels. But unfortunately, the bracing on the sides is not like the Woodlawn area. And Woodlawn, even Woodlawn, with the bracing they had of cement, like in a V shape, they're going to what is it, horizontal. So and in those areas, what happened is the property started to move, or what is the driveway started to break, houses started to move. Period. But in our area, where I'm in a hilltop, but still, when they do it like they fix a street or something, you can see that something's off. The other thing is, many years ago, some guy from SAWS did me the favor of making me a map with water line breaks, and it was ridiculous. There was a lot of them. That type of dedication is not there anymore. So I don't know what other breaks there have been since then. But in any case, soil stabilization, I think needs to be addressed as well. I don't know if it would fit into this before we even I mean, not the whole area is moving, but there are sections that I truly believe, when you see sidewalks buckled, when you see bridges, either on the sides, the sidewalk is lower than the bridge itself, and this, bridges are done solid, period. But something's moving, and before we spend money on things in certain areas, if that could be addressed, or who would address that, or you know what I mean? How do you,
Yeah,
that's a major thing, but
yeah,
how do
it's
you
probably
do
a
that?
level of detail beyond this plan again, but it's certainly something that when we make recommendations in general about, working on infrastructure projects, et cetera, we can put in kind of an additional reminder sort of recommendation of, hey, in this area, this could be a particularly important thing for the engineers to look at when they redesign.
Yes, big time. If you could do that, it would be, because it's probably not related. I mean, it's kind of, well, I hate spending money, just for nothing. But when houses start to move, it costs money to fix, period.
Yeah, for sure.
But not only that, it's really, something's moving, period. It is moved in Woodlawn, and those channels are smaller. I mean, God knows how much these areas have moved, and we don't even know.
Yeah, again, it may be beyond the exact scope of this plan, but it's something that we can at least mention and look into a little bit more. It looks like Graciela.
Okay, thank you.
And yeah, Graciela.
Yeah, thanks again for insisting that we help you get the word out to make this plan as comprehensive, as well as connected to the community, that they feel that they had something to say about their neighborhood or neighborhoods. So to the extent that, again, we have a list of meetings that are going to be open, and then just your flexibility. What I'm hearing you say, you're flexible to come on out and visit with communities. And so that's really great, because I think that makes a difference. I think the last time it felt like it was just the planning committee and then a couple of community moments. So thanks for opening that up. And I think there are many, many other ways to get the word out. So If you're flexible, just, we'll start sending you places and people to talk to. But then if there are these community meetings and whatever, the more time we have to help get the word out, the better it'll be for us to get the word and help you out.
Sure. Yeah. We're going to try to plan those.
Because I guess my concern was in the invitation list, a lot of the planning members don't live in the neighborhood. They are, again, the nonprofit folks who come in every day and step away. So talking to the community, as Laura will say, or, everybody else, it's like, oh yeah, well, we're fixing this up, but we're doing something else. Or when I see all this development take place and, NRP here, or whatever, and they have black roofs on top. And it's like, well, how are the development projects sustainable? I mean, if there's a sustainability department and the sustainability department has come up with its own plan, how can we hold developers accountable to make sure that all these different elements that they spoke about, for example, are followed through with the development that's going on in the neighborhood? So that's just an example.
Yeah, we'll definitely, we've got a list of partner city departments that we will try to incorporate, and other agencies like Sarah, that can offer us great expertise. And, as you know, Graciela, some of that is again, going to be above the ability of this particular Westside plan to enforce necessarily. But I think when we talk about land use or we talk about housing, we can certainly stress the importance of sustainability as much as we hear that from the Westside community. And I think it's a great reminder that, as much as it makes these plans complicated, we really do try to be comprehensive, and we try to weave in as many different aspects, as we can, or as makes sense. And so the reminders that we get from you all, if we're missing something, are going to be really important for sure.
And if you come up with different ideas or suggestions as far as how to make these opportunities work, please do contact us. I'm going to provide in the next slide, the last slide, our contact information. So if you didn't get a chance to talk today, or just you start to think about this in the coming days and you come up with other ideas or more ideas or other people that we should reach out to, please contact either Chris or me, and we'll make sure to address that and be ready as we move forward. And before we leave, we just, for those of you that are new to this process, we just wanted to give you a few resources that will explain the comprehensive plan and the implementation process. These are the links that will take you to that information. Does anybody have any questions as far as the information we've covered? Do know that we're going to cover more of this in the first planning team meeting. So this is not the end of this information. This is not the only time you're going to hear about this. But if right now you have any questions about the information we've covered or anything else, please do either send us your question via chat or via email, or give us a call. We're more than happy to reach out to you and answer these questions.
And I would just say, I saw, because I was chatting quite a bit, I lost track of the chat, but there's a lot of other good recommendations in there that note of. I saw people mentioning, also reaching out to the churches, which are certainly on our list, senior centers. So yeah, keep those ideas coming to us, not just during these meetings, but anytime, like Graciela said, if you know of an event, that's coming up that we could stop by, even if it's just for, half an hour to chat with people before or after the event or during the event. We can't promise we can get to every single one, but between Anna and myself, we really are hoping to be much more proactive about that. So any ideas you have, send them our way, and we're going to do our very best to accommodate as many of them as we can.
Chris, real quick, one of the things that comes up and people aren't aware of is BRAC, which is a base realignment and closure.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a group that oversees that. It was Meg Reyes, but they changed them. And that deals with the MAOZ, which they call, Brad calls accident potential zone. But in
Yep.
any case,
We've got contacts with JBSA and we're aware of all that. We have it mapped. We have good contacts to keep track of all that for sure.
yes, and we need to keep an eye on it because bases are closed. Just by 1 point that you lose, you're gone. And
yeah, I mean, to
and
give
we
you
need
some
to be
context,
aware of that.
Eugenio, we just finished the Port San Antonio Area Regional Center plan that got adopted,
Mhm.
which surrounds Lackland Air Force Base. So we're definitely very aware of the importance
You know, yes, please.
keeping track of all
Yes.
that and making sure that the military missions are protected. So no problem there for sure.
Thank you. Mhm.
All right. Anybody else with final thoughts? I mentioned it in the chat. A lot of you had asked about getting the presentation. So we will send out a recording of this as well as English and Spanish language PowerPoints within the next day or two. And because there were a number of people who weren't able to make the meeting that let us know ahead of time that did want this background information. So we'll be able to send that out to everybody on the planning team, not just those who are on this call. And any questions that you have between now and next Monday, feel free to reach out to Anna and I. Otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing you and hopefully quite a few more people to really dive into the discussions next week and in the weeks to come. All right, I don't see any other hands going up. And I think we lost a couple people. Yeah, it looks like we might be good. Well, thank you all for your time and for joining us. Anna, any final thoughts or anything I forgot?
No, I just want to leave everyone with the question of how can we best give you information? How can we best prepare you to work with us? So we're gonna cover this same question in the first planning team meeting. So please let us know, ponder this question. Do any of these work? Does anything else work? Because we do want to try to come up with a draft of the process moving forward. So we want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So give us a list of things that you need from us. If you want to know more about land use, about zoning, a little bit more about comprehensive planning, terminology, anything you need, let us know so that we can prepare that and be ready to share that with the group. Whether you're new or not to the process, all questions are good questions. So give us a list of things you need from us and we'll make sure to have them ready for your use as we move forward.
All right, thank you all. Everybody have a great evening and be in touch and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you all. Have a great night.